get check stub. Hella carefree, nothing scares me. Hella reckless, yeah. I got next up, right? No, we not the same. Cause see when I look in your iris, you likely to talk but not ready to ride. You do better keeping it quiet. My pen is ignited, my soul is enlightened. I like who I am, but I'm biased. They palette is right, and my drip is a fountain. I'm not like these regular guys. All of that talk is misguided. She like the way I make the tape print, but the way I make the words play is grim. I'm the reaper reaching for the kill switch. The label cut the check like the bladesman. Something sparking where his brain is. The beat is somewhere where their prayers in. Geronimo, the way I make the bass jump when no parachute is tasteless. They likely to run their mouth, but when they see you face to face, they quick with the shape shift. Up through the night, work the grave shift. Batted from the cradle to the grave, bitch. Big mad how they face tense. Look both ways for you catch fade. I'm a nice guy on the inside, still I'm not somebody to be played with. Keep it all the way 1,000. I don't remember how the ground feels. I left the city, I've been browsing. Treading water that they drown in. My head on the swivel, yeah. It's only really my surroundings. They keep it all the way 1,000. I don't remember how the ground feels. I left the city, I've been browsing. Treading water that they drown in. My head on the swivel, yeah. It's only really my surroundings. Can't stop, won't stop. Till I told the world when the glow track. Then a nigga dope at the stove top. Type of shit they hide in a tube sock. I done skip town on a new block, but I'm still around, nigga, just not. Better hold it down with a group drop where I kick down for the crowd, a balloon pop. Bet they come around for my moolah. Better run them out of town for they hoopla. Queen, she a hun like Mulan. Everything the hoes what they were, but they just not.
All right, everybody, it's time for another Tuesday, amazing Tuesday. It's going to be best Tuesday this week has ever had to offer because we're going to be talking about the Rodman principle. How do we get the best out of people? How do we get the best out of our team? How do we make sure that we see this what's special about people and enhance that and make them even better? We're going to talk about what are the things that we miss out of right now as we go through quarantine. Are large events ever going to come back? Are they going to be the same? We've talked about it a little bit, but now we're starting to see a little bit. The NBA made me practicing in just a couple weeks. So what does that look like for large business events and sporting events? Is that coming around? How do we stay accountable in all this when we're independent contractors all around? And we continue to wonder, in the world of business, how are we going to know POS and niche POS? All these things in the high five right now. It's time to get started. Let's do the high five.
The time has come, the questions are set, opinions hide, discussions are led, a show about nothing and everything, it's all the same. We've got sports, entertainment, sales, and marketing. It's time for the high five. We've got it all covered. It's time for the high five. We've got it all covered. Yeah. The high five.
Oh, it's the high five, if you can believe it is the high five right now. So I'm Nate Manahan. I am joined here with an incredible cast of incredible people that I'm going to bring up here. I got to turn my camera off to them so they can't see me because they just don't want to be bothered and, be distracted by my wonderful face. Over in wonderful Colorado, I'm going to go with him first because a lot of times I make him last and he's never first with us. He climbs mountains for fun. He skis down them to make us all look bad. He golfs an incredible score of 9 like Kim Jong-un, and yet he is fully aware of where he is. Mr. Danny Shard. How are you, Danny Shard?
These keep getting better and better. Good morning, Nate. Good morning, High Five Nation.
High five. And I just want to admit that I absolutely do not think about these, and this is total randomness as it comes out of my mouth. So hopefully one day I don't put my foot in my mouth totally.
Nate, it's a gift.
It's a gift.
All right, and over in Warsaw, Indiana, just next to Winona Lake, just away from Lake Wawasee, one time I saw Tom Selleck on a boat. It's Mr. Brian Linke. He may not be Tom Selleck because he can't grow a mustache that makes him big sexy, but he's sexy in all of our hearts, especially to Brenda. How are you, Brian Linke?
Nate, that was amazing. I'm really well, and sun's out. Pool's gonna get open today, hopefully, and ready for another high five.
Oh, it's going to be a great one. I'm excited about it all because, well, there are so many good topics that we can have each day. And as we get going and get excited about this, the sun is out. I'm looking out the window to my left. I see an incredible sun. I'm excited about that. I know also your pool is going to be open, so I expect to see a cannonball when it comes out. I think people are starting to. I was taking a walk yesterday, and there were smell of lilacs. I love when you have the smell of lilacs. It just makes me happy. So with that, we're going to go to our first question, and I simply called it the Rodman. Last week, for the first time. Last night for the first time, I got to watch episode 4, and I'd seen 3 and 4, and I was just hit by the statement that Dennis Rodman made about Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. And he said, they knew me and they got the most out of me. And they were talking about that Jordan notoriously in the story, and I was doing a little reading. The story made it sound like he flew to Vegas to pull Rodman out. Rodman was back in Chicago. He was taking a little staycation after his vacation, and Jordan just walked across the street from the United Center, or the practice facility, I think it was, and got into the little flop apartment that Dennis Rodman was renting that literally just had a bed and a TV. That was it. So that was they missed that part of the story, but Carmen Electra was there in the room with him. But I thought it was interesting that he said that they got the most out of him. And I was thinking, what are the things that we can do that are either have been done to us to get the most out of us, or that we can do to others to get the most out of them? Let's go, Danny Shard. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I think it's kind of understanding your team, understanding your teammates, and what makes them stronger. I mean, it's a super unique story that is Dennis Rodman and going, to Vegas for 48 hours, which what did it end up being, like 96 hours or something like that. I mean, it was about double than what he was given. But I mean, what kind of organization is just gonna, in the middle of what they were going through, just give a guy like Dennis, very free spirited dude, give him free reign to just disappear for 3 days, 4 days. You're not going to see it other than just from an organization that knows its players, knows its teammates, and knows what's important to them. So, I mean, it helped. I mean, he came back out of it, and he was kicking everybody's butt again. They talked about the running drill that they had to do shortly after he came back, and how Michael's just telling everybody to just, hey, let's slow down to almost a walk. Let's jog. Let's just, kind of have a consistent pace. And Rodman just goes bananas because he was a machine. He was a different species. And I think it's important for everybody to understand that about your teammates and what's best for them, and because it worked.
Brian, have you ever had a situation where someone's getting the most out of you? And what are those things that they do to encourage you, to challenge you? I know that you've told several stories about your first mentor coming out of college and helping you. What are some of the things that people have done to get the most out of you?
I think that's a great question. I think the answer, and I don't think there's any clear-cut answer, but I think one of the things, I think you just have to get to know who you're dealing with and know that, not everybody in this life is treated the same, right? I mean, Nate, you've got 4 kids, and I know you don't treat all 4 of them exactly the same. I've got 3, and I know that I don't treat all 3 of them the same. So I think you just have to just realize, not everybody's the same, and learn to know what the balance is and how far you can push them. I coach a lot of kids, and I'm pretty successful at doing it in all sports, and I still today have people come up to me and tell me I'm the best coach their kids ever had. I don't even remember who the guy was. But and I think the reason for that is just because I talk to people like they're people, and you just get to know what you can say to somebody and what you can't say to somebody. How high you can raise your voice, how low your voice needs to be, and again, for me, it's you can push me pretty hard. So. That's my answer. But let me read a. It's funny you should ask this question because there was something on Twitter about Phil Jackson. It says Phil Jackson, was a great coach because he knew his players and how to manage personalities. He has an extremely high IQ, good X's and O's, but his IQ is his strength. Most coaches think it's about basketball. It's not. Relate to your players to maximize their abilities. So, again, people, Michael Jordan, great player, Scottie Pippen, great player, Dennis Rodman, but you have to have a guy that knows how to manage the personalities. And I guarantee that people who are watching that episode 4, they're like, how can Dennis Rodman just pick up and go to Vegas? Well, you know what? He dealt with a coach that knew how to handle him. and kind of like let the string go. And and I'm glad you mentioned that, Nate, because I knew that Jordan didn't fly to Vegas because at the time, he went across the street, he pulled Rodman out of bed and said, "Okay, time's up, let's go."
Yeah. Well, and as thinking through that, as we look at, as we're working with our sales partners, if we're working with even people that are teammates, whether we're coaching a team, it's about getting the most out of who they are and learning who they are, and making sure we understand what their special talents are. And I love what you said, Brian. You don't treat every person the same way. Just like I totally agree. Don't treat my kids the same way, and I don't treat the people around me the same way. And what I'm trying to always figure out is how do I get the most out of them? And I don't always do that. And sometimes I just have to ask them the question, how can I help you achieve the most? What do you want to achieve and how do you want to achieve that? And sometimes it's as simple as that. It's just asking how. And Dennis Rodman said, I got to take a break. And Michael tell him that story where he's like, oh man, no, Phil. And he used some colorful language that I haven't heard on ESPN before. And, but at the end of the day, that got the most out of Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman never had a more successful 3 years, even though he's a great player. San Antonio was a complete debacle, if my memory serves. And obviously he was kind of run out of Detroit as he just became more of a unique person and met Madonna and Carmen Electra and all the other partiers that he was going through. But then he became a great basketball player. And I think, what can we do to help everybody get really good at their special gift? Danny, what do you think how does this apply to people that are helping when they're doing sales? If they have this mindset that I'm going to make you the best that you can be, how would that help them if they're doing that when connecting with merchants?
Yeah, and I actually talk to partners quite a bit regarding building a team. And as they add people onto their team, dealing with the different personalities and trying to figure out how they're going to maximize everybody's strengths and kind of get everybody almost competing against each other in a positive way, right? And really, I think these two go hand in hand whenever you're talking about Dennis and all the teams that he was with before and how he goes to Chicago and becomes a phenomenal basketball player, right? Because he found a team and a manager that knew how to get the best out of him and get him to really raise to the top of his talents. And that's what a lot of our partners are trying to do as well as they're building teams. And it's important to identify, what people's strengths are as far as, so-and-so might be really good at opening up conversations, or somebody else might be really good at talking about the technology piece of point of sale systems, and figuring out how to make these work together and put them in the positions that they need to be successful is really important. We see a lot of it, and we talk to a lot of partners about it.
Great answer, Dan.
That's great. I mean, and what it is, it's just about, like, even going back, and we don't want to use only this documentary, but how Phil Jackson said it was more about the team than just Michael Jordan. Because, obviously, Michael Jordan, when he chose a coach for the Washington Wizards, he chose Doug Collins. He loved Doug Collins. But Phil Jackson was the one who pushed Michael Jordan to get 6 championship rings. And there was something special about making sure not only choosing what people want, because I said that you got to ask people what they want, but Phil Jackson saw this is what will make you the best for the team. And so sometimes those things are different, and we have to analyze them. It's a great discussion. We're not going to take all the day to talk about it because we have 4 other topics to talk about today, including what just a little more, what do we miss? What the FOMO of the world right now? What do we miss? What's going on? And, we're at home a lot more. Danny, I know yesterday said that he's been back out in the golf course, but what are the things that we miss the most and we long for? And some of them we just know we won't get for a while. So I'm going to start out. I don't usually go first, because I don't want you to steal my answer, but I just miss going and watching a Cubs game at a restaurant called Fat Dan's in Mass Ave. There's 3 locations, Chicago, they call it a Chicago Deli. And you can just go and they always have any Chicago Cubs game on, and sitting there for 3 hours. I would sometimes take my computer on a Saturday afternoon or Sunday evenings. I did it a couple times, did the Sunday afternoon game, and would take my kids and we would sit there and we would just watch the Cubs game. And I miss that right now. Man, I would love to do that. I know Brian misses the Cubs. What are some other things that you guys miss?
Dan, I'll let you go first.
I had to think about this one for a while because I miss a lot of things. I'm really enjoying my time with family, and I feel like I've honestly connected with my wife and son on a deeper level because I'm home more, right? And we're doing more things together than we would have if I was working, 12 hours a day like I usually am. But some of the things I miss, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, is I do miss Las Vegas. I miss Vegas, man. And when we would be there right now with our top 10 partners, Nate, you said it before we came on. I think tonight we'd be going to Top Golf, which those of you who know me know I love Top Golf. And obviously, just playing cards every day doing right. I miss it. I miss our team. We've got a good team here in Colorado. Got a great team in Indiana, and I usually make a few trips there. We're always getting together and cross training and just staying connected with each other. And I miss all of that. But Vegas, especially right now, since that's where we should be.
All right, Brian Linke, what do you miss? What's on your list?
There's a long
list.
Yeah, I know.
There's a laundry list for me just because it's my strength has always been the relationship, people kind of thing. And when you're in the house all day long and nothing's changed here because I'm a pretty good guy to live with. But anyway, if I'm going to start, I guess I'll be sentimental. I don't have any family other than the family that lives in this house in Indiana. So, I was supposed to go out and see my son in California for spring break. I haven't seen my mom in a long time. I haven't seen my brother in a long time. So I'm definitely missing that for sure. Cubs games, first time, all of a sudden I become a season ticket holder for the first. I've been on the waiting list for like 20 some odd years. Right, we're looking forward to going to opening day. I don't have that. I miss the people in my office. I really do. I miss them all. I never thought I'd say that, but no, we're a pretty close knit group. I'm only kidding. So I miss them, and I miss I've gotten back into coaching kids. With my boss Jen Sales, and I miss the Lions. I really do. I miss going to tournaments. I miss going to practices. We were supposed to have a party. We're supposed to have a pool party coming up. So I miss. There's a lot, but the kids are definitely right up there.
Well, thinking about all these things that we're missing, some of that is the future of large events. And yesterday, the governor of Texas came out and said, okay, we're going to start opening restaurants. He's not the only governor, but we're going to only open them at 25% capacity, groups of no larger than 6, and they have to always be 6 to 9 feet apart between the groups. And I was thinking and picturing that in my mind, and I'm like, man, you just created like little dining rooms from your home, and the only thing you just changes the decor. And I was like, as we continue on this, the large events are going to look very different for the near future, and we're not going to see these crowds of people that we've seen before. And as I was putting this question, obviously it's the ETA show where we would have been this week in Las Vegas at the Mandalay Bay Convention Center. It's the large events like Consumer Electronics Show, or maybe some of our even middle-sized events like the Acquiring Show in our industry, but also just like those large dinners where you get 15, 20 people together and you just have one of those great nights like we've done multiple times, where we get some of our sales partners together and we fly across the country and we take them out to a nice meal and we talk and learn from each other. Those things I don't think are going to happen for a while. How do we do that? And are you, like, when you can go to a restaurant and there's only 25%, do you see you guys, are you going to go? What do you think, Danny?
That's a great question. I don't know the answer yet. Honestly, I don't. As we kind of get on the other side of this, I'm going to be making almost game time decisions, right? Of how I'm going to handle the situation, where I'm going to go, and kind of what it's going to look like there. But I agree. It's going to change a lot of our approach as patrons, as fans, and their approach as the people putting on the events. Everything's going to change on that. I think you're going to see a lot less people that want to go to those events. But you're still going to have people that just miss them so much that they're willing to risk it and they're going to go. And so I think a lot of people are just going to be making some of those game time decisions as we get closer to it. I mean, you guys have talked about baseball. We've talked about football. I'm a big Broncos fan, and I'm curious what the NFL is going to look like whenever games start being played in August and September. Are they going to open stadiums to, what the Mile High Stadium is like 76,000 people, I think, something like that. Are they going to open to all 76,000 people, or are they going to make people sit 2 seats apart? What's that going to look like? Or is it going to be get your temperature at the door? Maybe that technology is going to be available at that point. I don't know. So there's a lot to be said, but and that's still going to come out to educate us on how these are going to be handled. But I think they're going to be different. They're probably going to start with, like we all walk through metal detectors. They're probably going to start with a COVID test at the door of some sort. I mean, I can see that happening.
I can see that happening. But the weird thing is, yesterday, I'm not going to get political, but at the press conference at the White House, be as agnostic as I can be about this, but our push was, hey, we're going to finally get to 2.3% per state are allowed to test. I think the number was, I don't quote me if but it was single digits like that. And I'm like, what in the world? 2.3%. So, well, then we're not testing every person that goes into a football game for sure, because we're not actually going to have those numbers. Brian Linke, we love restaurants, and restaurants thrive on parties coming in and spending $10,000 on 20 people, or, a party coming in after a baseball game and at a quick service restaurant and 30 people ordering, hundreds and hundreds of dollars of food. That's not happening anytime soon, right?
Right.
Well, here's the thing, and I disagree a little bit with, but you're right, Nate. Nobody likes restaurants more than I. And actually, the three of us on this call do pretty well in restaurants. But here's what I think. Okay, and it's just like anything else. Yeah, starting off, I think it's just going to be a very slow process, right? So people are looking at like, okay, what's the NFL look like coming up in September? What's college football look like? What are high school sports going to look like? What's Jacob Linke going to do, during wrestling season? What's that going to look like? I think it's going to be a slow process to start, right? Wearing masks, testing, doing, again, those people are a lot smarter than I am. So I don't want to pretend to know the answers. But what I think is over time, time is an unbelievable healer. Right. And I think there's over time, as we slowly start getting back into it and the curve continues to get flattened, hopefully it does. I think over time, we will get back to close to being normal. I really do. I think the economy is going to pick up. But again, these are things that, patience is something that I'm really bad at. But I'm going to have to be start getting better at it, because again, I just think over time we'll get close. We're going to get close.
Well, let's go to our next topic, and our topic number 4 for the day is really close to my heart, because I think about it for myself. But I think we've all gone through, those who have been working from home, maybe something they haven't done originally. It is, how do we keep ourselves accountable when maybe we don't have someone checking in on us all the time? And in our industry, 80-90% of the people work individually. They're out there taking care of themselves, taking care of their family, and obviously there's some accountability with spouses or significant others, maybe even feeling accountable to your kids and taking care of it, and to the merchants that are serving you. But there isn't a boss who's out there saying, hey, you need to go do this today. So when you're in those situations and you're the person that has to provide the intrinsic drive to go and do something, to get off the couch, to make a difference, to go get your job done, to get that work done, to actually get out of that nap and to go focus on getting that next task done, making that next sale. How do you become motivated to that? And how do you provide yourself with a sphere of influence of accountability to make you a better person? Brian Linke, I'm going to come to you first. What do you say about how do you keep yourself accountable, and how do you encourage our independent salespeople to stay accountable and create a sphere of accountability around them to make them the best person they can be?
Well, I'm extremely fortunate. I've got Danny Shard pushing me every single day, and Danny has come up with different things for our entire team to do. There's always something to do, especially on mypayprotect.com. There's videos. I'm finding myself watching more videos now than I ever have. Because again, this is an agent recruitment. It's hard to recruit agents and to talk to agents who are supposed to be out there selling when, again, we're all in this thing together. So nobody's leaving their house, right? I mean, it's a stay-at-home order. So we can't call people and say, hey, why haven't you gone out there and called on 20 merchants today? Because that's just not a reality. So as for me and for my team and our team, we've got Danny, we've got some of the people back in our Warsaw office, the girls who, we have things to keep us busy and to keep pushing us along. And again, you're getting a paycheck, and I just feel I owe it to Matt Hoskins, Danny Sharp, Billy West, and you, Nate, to continue to get up every single day and do something.
So, and how do we help those who don't have someone who's going to call every morning? So someone's not going to wake up. I think about that. If I don't check in with some people, by, a certain amount of time, and with this, obviously, if I don't show up at around 9:45, 9:50 and make sure that we're talking and getting ready and getting logged on to go live, I have that accountability. But a lot of people are getting up every morning, and the only accountability is to themselves. No one's checking in with a checklist. Hey, what are you doing? But their pay is based on their productivity, and maybe they could last for a little time. How do you make sure you have people because we're a social, relational people, no matter what personality we are. How do we help create that, Danny?
Well, hold on. Okay, the simple answer to that question, and I'll let Danny answer. But when you're a 1099 sales agent, and your livelihood is dependent on what you're doing, I think you sit back, and again, I'm sorry, Dan, if I stole your thunder here, but I think you sit back and try to figure out different ways to get a hold of merchants and hopefully keep your revenue stream at least somewhat respectable to where you can make a living.
Yeah, I'm trying to absorb everything in the question. The sphere of accountability, I think I heard, and that's I'm trying to put my head around that. And I think, Brian, you bring up a good thing with partners out there, 1099 salespeople in general, not just in payment processing. And it's tough, Nate. I think it's, obviously they have an accountability to themselves, to their family, to continue to succeed. Right. And I think, kind of what you're getting at too is as we deal with these times, and maybe there are people working from home that are getting a solid paycheck, whether they get up and do it or not right now, right? And how do they actually do the right thing and get up? And it starts with integrity, wanting to do the right thing, and most importantly, by your peers, by your teammates, and by the company that you work for. I feel every day whenever I wake up and come to work that I owe a lot to the company that I work for. And so I want to get out there and I want to make sure that I'm worth my value as an employee and as a contributor to what the company is actually trying to accomplish. And I think everybody has that mindset, although, it's very easy to take that mentality of, well, they're not going to know if I lay here for another 20 minutes, right? Or they're not going to know if I jump on Facebook real quick. And that's the mentality that I think a lot of people do that, is not successful and might send them down the course of failure because they're more thinking that they can kind of hide behind it because nobody's watching. And I think it just starts with integrity and accountability within yourself. And obviously, driving your team, right? I want to do good for my team and for my company. And I think our team does the same thing, right? So I think having a strong team helps with that.
What did Billy West say the other day? I'm always watching.
I'm always watching.
Right? Bill, if you're listening, right? I'm always watching.
I guarantee you he is.
Absolutely.
Well,
absolutely.
And I think for those who are working independently, it's about creating systems that help them have checkpoints to check in with people. So even if you work by yourself, you're not totally by yourself. You're working for the customers that you have, the merchants you're serving, if you're selling insurance, those who you're insuring. You're checking in with maybe getting into a networking group. Maybe you schedule certain meetings every week so people are asking. You need to be in other people's lives asking how they are, and people need to be able to talk into your life. And if you're living on an island, it's going to be very hard for you to succeed in life, and certainly creating that accountability around you, making sure that you, for me, when I go to bed, I know what 3 things the next day I'm going to try to accomplish. Now, I'll probably do 60 things and I'll get sidetracked and I'll get 2, but I know what 3 things I'm going to try to accomplish. I do that every night before I go to bed, and it's on a note card that, it's right here every day. It doesn't come in focus, but when I come in and I have it just, okay, these are the 3 things I do. During the week, I look at what are the goals for the week, and I create little checkpoints and milestones to see and it got done. So like last night, I had a project that I didn't get done, and it didn't get quite the way I did it, but I just kept trying, and I stayed up late and I got it done because I had that checkpoint and that mental, I'm getting this done today no matter what. Sometimes there's that drop dead date because if you don't get that proposal to that person, they can't make that decision. But sometimes it's just about creating little places for you to say, yes, man, I'm going to do 10 phone calls today. I'm going to do 100 phone calls today. I'm going to drive, when we can do that again, to X location and talk to these merchants, these people. I'm going to do this type of online posting. Whatever it is, creating little miniature goals, little projects, little objectives, however you want to do it. There are lots of people out there. But then making sure that there are people who are checking into you, asking how you're doing. And at least, I call it the moment of integrity, and you have the choice to lie to them and say, hey, I'm, better than I said I was, and just lie. But at least you have to go through that. And I think eventually you're like, look, I want to be able to say, hey, this is how life's going. This is the way things are going. And that's because I'm getting into it. And I just think it's important to put things into our life, no matter who we are or who we report to. And so many of us get into the industries that we're in because we don't want to have a boss. But at the same time, we need to have accountability. And I think having a boss and having accountability are different things. They can go together sometimes, but I think they're different things.
I agree. And I'll tell you, this topic, it actually hit me really hard almost 7 years ago when I started working for Papertech. Before I worked in an office of I think it got up to 270 employees in Basalt, Colorado, with Total Merchant Services, where I first started. And then migrating over to Papertech, made a few trips up to Detroit, up to Indiana. Just wasn't and to Houston, where our president was at the time, and it just wasn't in me to leave Colorado. So I was given the opportunity to work from home and work remotely, and that was a huge step for me in this, regarding this conversation that we're talking about and being accountable, because I always went into an office and was surrounded by people. And when you're in an office surrounded by people, everybody drives everybody, right? Everyone's going after the common goal. That's what all the conversations are about, meetings and everything. Whenever you're working from home, total different thing. And there is a sense of being on your own, although you've got a team in several different areas, just a phone call away. You don't have anybody there watching you. You don't have anybody there to bounce ideas off of just as they're coming to you. And that was huge for me. And so learning how to communicate to my team differently and still have the same level of productivity was something that I really worked hard to accomplish. And it's tough. I mean, I really felt like at that time was my first taste of being a 1099 sales partner that is almost kind of on their own, right? And their success is how much they put into it. And that's really kind of what it did for me. And it helped tremendously. But knowing how to adjust and still use your team to your advantage, I think is very important, especially as you're working by yourself.
Yeah, I totally agree, Danny. And that's it's that personal drive. And that's why part of what we do at Papertech and our relationship managers is to provide a little bit of that accountability. We have a couple thousand agents and partners. So it's impossible for our team, in order to scale, to be able to call every person every week even. But we do make a lot of outbound calls. We do a lot of outbound emails. We're here at any point. And if you say, hey, can you call us at that time? We do our best to try to provide that opportunity, just to keep little places for us to say, hey, we all are in this together and we want to move forward. And finding your own rhythm, that's extremely important. And if you're not where you want to be, then try something else. Change it up. Just do something different and try another system. And there are a lot, whether you're going to do Michael Hyatt or you're going to do Getting Things Done, David Allen, or you have somebody else you study that how they make their most productive days, or just, the guy who always says the most important thing you do is make your bed every morning because you can accomplish your first task. Do something, whatever that is. So as we move on, we're going to go into our fifth topic on this wonderful Tuesday. And we are all week talking about point of sale. Robert Kramer launched us last Friday as we're talking about point of sale in the merchant services, and that's the place that often runs the whole business. But whether you're a niche or niche business, I don't know how you pronounce it, and I don't actually know what the right way is because I don't care, but I'm going to say you're a niche business. What happens is that we sometimes think that there's a one size fits all type of point of sale. And there are some big categories. There are major categories like retail and hospitality. There's, housing in hotels, there is quick service, there's full service restaurant. There are some big buckets that you can go into. But if you walk into a dentist office, or you walk into a florist, or you walk into a hardware store, or you walk into a tire store, they have specific softwares that are running that. And we often hear, do you have a point of sale that serves that? And let me guess, Danny, what are you going to hear Robert Kramer and the team at POS Pros say? Hey, do I have something that serves that?
No.
No. Exactly.
No.
Yeah, go for it, Brian.
Well, okay. I think Bob was a little tongue in cheek with that, just because he's got so many leads coming in. But I think it falls back on the agent, on the sales agent. And what I mean by that is, a lot of our I don't want to say a lot of our agents, but a lot of salespeople, they'll go and they'll talk to somebody for 5 minutes and go back and call us and say, man, I need a point of sale system for a golf course. Or I need, and they'll get a hold of Bob, and then they'll get a no, and then there'll be an argument back and forth, and it's just a lot of it's just a lot of wasting of time. I think that the thing that any salesperson needs to do is get to know the merchant, right? By asking questions, spend a little time with that merchant, find out what they're looking for, what they need, then go back and see if we can do it. And if we can't do it, figure out, what we can do by asking questions to, Danny, myself, whoever it is, to get to done. But rather than, just take it upon yourself to come back and make an argument about whether or not we can do something, it's just, you're just wasting your time. You're wasting your merchant's time.
With 90% of merchants, we, maybe a little lower, but we have a holistic approach that can actually help bind together their payments and technology needs to run their whole business. And so if you're a restaurant, if you're a retailer, if you're a salon owner, we have something for that. If you're a dry cleaner, we have something for that. But as you get to smaller little pieces, there are 10,000, 20,000 POS systems. There are, hundreds of them just here in Indianapolis, Indiana, different companies that have created a different type of POS, some for large amounts, some for 5 businesses. Danny, well, actually, Brian, I know you told a story earlier when we were talking briefly. When you first got into this business, you were processing for a dentist that you knew, and you were helping them facilitate, and then they went and started using a third-party software. And what happened to that account?
Well, what happened was I lost the account, and believe me, it hurt me. But that was before we were had anything to do with point of sale. And what ended up happening was it was a dentist here in town, and the residual was really good. So yes, it hurt a lot. But what happened was they went out to San Francisco. They found some software that was strictly for a dentist office. I didn't understand any of it. The payment piece was part of it. And yeah, now they're using that system, and for me to go back in there and try to resell them on something, it's too little, too late. But if we had our point of sale people and we had our point of sale division, I might have been able to at least try to salvage the account. What ended up happening was they just went ahead and just did it without even letting me know. But again, that's neither here nor there. That's just what merchants do.
Yeah.
So, it was just, it's an unfortunate thing, but it's just another one of those things. You got to pick yourself up and keep going.
Well, and what I was thinking on that point is sometimes the software and the payments don't have to go together, and they may have two different vendors for those pieces. Sometimes it works together. But we know our good friend Kevin, who focuses on serving and helping dentist office across the United States, he does not have a practice management software that he's integrating with. He's simply doing the hardware for the payments and then learning how to best serve, and it knows how to speak it. Danny, you know Kevin really well. What have you learned from him about actually being able to connect with an industry that we don't have a software fully integrated for?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times what you'll find with these and it's niche, by the way, with these very niche products
niche.
is
it's more sophisticated if you say niche, Danny. More sophisticated.
That's just
I've never heard anybody say niche before.
I haven't either. I was just being obnoxious.
I'll give you an example, though. Working with a partner right now, she's probably listening, and she's dealing with a very large pool company, and they have a very specific pool software, and they can only integrate payments with one company, and that's OpenEdge. A lot of you are familiar with it. Now, there's a lot of companies out there. Mercury, I've talked about before, has been very well known to do this, where they're just buying up the rights to be the proprietary payments provider for these systems, right? And so what they end up doing is they end up gouging the merchants significantly on their processing fees, because we can provide you with this very niche product specific to your industry. So it's a unique approach that they take. And what Kevin's really been successful at doing, and what a lot of partners are successful at doing, and what I'm helping this partner do right now, is identify with the merchant that there might be one or two extra steps involved in separating those out. Like you had mentioned, Nate, a lot of times they don't go together, right? So you'll have the practice management software or the customer management software, whatever that company uses, and the payment processing. And ideally, you'd have them all together, because it just creates a little bit less work for the accounting team or anybody that's handling payments. But whenever you really kind of open up that Pandora's box, if you will, you're going to find that in a lot of cases, it's creating one, maybe two additional steps for these merchants, where it's very little time difference for them to run a payment. They can get into a rhythm and do it very seamlessly and save a significant amount of money. So I do like having niche products. I mean, obviously we've got several of them in the POS Pros world, but it's impossible to have everything, right? I mean, we're not going to have a specific product for golf courses. I'd love to. Trust me, I'm a big golfer. Everybody knows that. So I'd love to have a specific product for golf courses, which we are looking at one, by the way. But you know what I mean? Where if you have like a all-in-one system like Clover, you end up having this system that like pieces everything together, and it's just not very user-friendly. It ends up being incredibly more expensive for a merchant, because they have to do all these add-ons. And it's just, I don't think that's the best approach either. So a lot of times the best approach is letting these merchants use the best software that is for their business if you can't integrate with it, and finding a seamless way to implement a payment solution so they can do it easily, still work with you and get your level of support, and you can kind of help them with that process and that transition of doing it.
Well, and what we find is often that that merchants are choosing you as a partner and the person that's actually coming in and going to support more than they are the software. And sometimes they're willing to go a little bit with a lesser software or a little less, cohesive of a plan, and maybe not integrated payments, in order to have you facilitating that whole process. And if you're choosing to go into an industry where there's maybe not a simple, easy, way to go with the hardware, like restaurants or retail or even hair salons or things like that, then learn that industry really well. understand what's going on, how they do their business, and add value, and then just say, hey, this is how it could work with this type of software with using my processing and with my payments capabilities. And this is the steps that would have to work into it. And when you become the expert and you walk in the door to be able to support them in that way, they will choose you sometimes just out of that. Now, sometimes, like with Brian, and I don't know what would happen now, but there are facts. Some people just want the convenience of integration. And later we're going to talk about payment facilitation. They're willing sometimes to pay even a little bit more for their processing just to have life be easier. And sometimes we just can't win that one. And we just have to know when to let it go. Right, Danny?
That's exactly right. I mean, and we often find that there are people out there and there are businesses out there that are willing to pay extra to have that little bit more of a seamless integration, but the majority and the masses are going to be more open to the savings. And you'll hear me say often that it's a combination, right, of relationship, pricing, and solution. If you only have two of those three, obviously you lose an opportunity to make that sale. If you have all three of them, it's tough not to earn that business and earn that relationship. If you're missing one of those, it can be a little tougher, but there's ways to overcome it. If you're missing two of those, it's close to impossible, right? So you gotta have two of the three to even be able to compete. But you are going to find that there are merchants that, hey, I don't care, I'll pay a little bit extra to do it. Now in the times that we're dealing with, I think are focused on the bottom line of their businesses. What's that?
Yeah, you just broke up a little bit. The gremlins got you a little bit, but
usually happens at the end of the high five, I guess.
It does, yes.
But I think more merchants are focused on the bottom lines of their businesses, and they're willing to do a few extra steps on the transaction. So I see this as another opportunity for partners to approach merchants that they know that they haven't been able to close before because they're locked into these niche products with a provider that can only do it with them, and they're paying really high rates. They're going to be more open to having that conversation, to separating those payments out and saving that money and maybe adding a couple steps to their process.
Absolutely. And I think this is a good time for us to transition to the end of our high five. Let me bring up a little music just a little bit in the background as we get excited about going into a Wednesday. It's going to be a great week. We have so many good things going on. It's a whole new opportunity of doing business, to keep positive, to help our merchants who are understanding there is a light at the end of the tunnel, even if things are a little odd. And as Vicky said, hey, it's county by county in Texas. If they have 5 or less, then it's so confusing. But you know what? It's going to get clearer. There's a little bit more action. There's a little more going on. Danny, Brian, last words as we close up.
We're getting closer. Everyone needs to continue to be patient. Make 10 calls today. Call 10 of your merchants. You'll feel better about things. They'll feel better about things. And again, time is a great healer. So we're getting there.
Absolutely. I just want to give a quick shout out to Matt Hoskins. He is the man
happy
behind
birthday.
the scenes.
Happy birthday.
PayProtect. Big happy birthday to Matt Hoskins. If you can, shoot him an email, matt@payprotect.com. Give him a call. He'd love to hear from everybody. Show him some love. But he's the reason that we're all here, and he's doing some great things behind the scenes. So wish him a happy birthday.
All right, and on that, let me bring up our theme song as we get going. We are excited to have yet another high five. Everybody have a great Tuesday. Wednesday's coming. We'll see you at 10 a.m. tomorrow.